Welcome to the Food Junkies Food Addiction Summit.
Here we aim to provide you with the experience, strength, and hope of professionals actively working on the front lines in the field of food addiction.
The purpose of this summit is to educate you and increase overall awareness about food addiction as a disease with abstinence as the solution.
Every day for the month of October, we are sharing one inspiring speaker or highlighted food preparation video from the incredible Tony Vassallo of Moda Nutrition Inc. and the Real Food Revival Movement.
We have 4 weeks of interviews with the leaders in the field of food addiction, clinicians who are working on the front lines, registered dietitians and nutritionists that are working toward bridging the eating disorder and food addiction camps, and people just like you and me.
Here we talk about all things food addiction recovery. Most importantly, how to thrive rather than just survive.
So stay positive, make a change for yourself, tell others about your change, and hopefully the message will spread.
And as Vera always says,
the power is ours.
All right. Welcome everybody to today's interview on the Food Junkies Food Addiction Summit. We have Ava and Raquel from Resolve Food Addiction, and I'm just going to have them go ahead and introduce themselves for us if they would.
Hi, thank you very much, Clarissa and Molly, for inviting us to the Food Junkies podcast. My name is Raquel Delgado. I'm from Spain, but I lived in the UK. I've been living in the UK for the last 25 years. I'm a GP or general practitioner or family physician, and I work for the National Health Service. I've got more than 20 years of clinical experience, and I'm a freelance doctor who also works in service management of diabetes in my local health area.
Hi, thank you, Molly and Clarissa, and thank you, Raquel, for introducing yourself. I'm Dr. Eva Clemente. I am a family physician as well as Raquel. I train in Spain, but I've been living in the UK for 25 years now. I work on the National Health Service as well, as Raquel is. But I have a salary job, so I am a doctor in a practice, and I'm always in the same practice. And I do that most of my week. And also on top of that, I'm very involved in education. So I teach medical students, and I am a mentor or a trainer for doctors that want to become family physicians, and that's half of my time.
Okay, so you guys are both physicians, and we are wondering, how has food addiction impacted your life? Is there some kind of personal story there as well? Did you have an aha moment? And how did you guys come together to morph into Resolve Food Addiction?
So how we came to get interested and involved in food addiction was through our clinical practice, because in the UK we have an increasing number of people suffering from type 2 diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome. And a few years back, I came across the low carb movement in the UK, led by David Owen and the Public Health Collaboration. And it got me as a way of managing the type 2 diabetes and reversing type 2 diabetes. And anyway, I adopted the low carb diet myself. And then I did intermittent fasting and I did keto. And I joined a lot of social media forums that they support this kind of way of living. But what I saw in these forums and what I saw in my clinical practice when I advised this kind of eating or lifestyle to patients, where they kept on falling off the wagon. And they kept going back once again and again and again to overeat and to binge eating and to gain their weight. So it got me thinking that there's something here that we were missing. And I got talking to a friend of mine who has been suffering from obesity from a very young age. And she told me I'm addicted to sugar. And at the time I thought, that's not possible. How could you be addicted to sugar? That's just, an excuse to keep on overeating. So I thought, okay, let me do a search on YouTube, and I came across Vera Terman interview, one of her interviews, and her book, Food Junkies, and I got hooked. And I thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And that is when, through Food Junkies book, I came across the Institute of Food Addiction in Iceland, led by Esther, and I enrolled in the food addiction course. And of course, at the time, I was working with Eva, and we were very involved in diabetes management and the low carb as well. And I told her all I've learned about food addiction, and she followed me.
Yeah, so that's thank you, Raquel. That's actually so professionally, that's a very similar path for me. I worked for 11 years. I've been working in an area with a very high diabetes prevalence, and I used to have a diabetic clinic every Tuesday. I remember I used to just give them insulin and all these tablets and things, and slowly, you know, through a very similar process as Raquel, you know, looking into social media and finding out about Debbie Unwin and Jane Owen, I realized that actually low carbohydrate diets were probably a best option for diabetes, and I changed my management to low carbohydrate diets. And then, but I always saw the same patients. It was the same patients on and on and on. And then one day, I remember Raquel and I, we've been friends for many years, and we trained together, and we used to just hang out together. And one day she said, "Oh, I found the missing link." And I said, "Really? What are you talking about? The missing link of what?" And he said, "You know, the missing link is food addiction." And I was, "Oh, wow." So actually, I did follow her, and I did my training in fact with Esther in the Institute of Food Addiction in Iceland. But before she told me all of this, I do have a personal story actually. Before I knew about food addiction, you know, we do train together and we do triathlons together, and we love open water swimming with, you know, our wetsuits and things, because in the UK you need a wetsuit, otherwise you die. So being from Spain, you know, the bread is actually part of our diet. You know, the food, the plates in Spain, it doesn't have any carbohydrates. It's your bread. And in fact, if you want to lose weight, you just say, "Oh, no, I'm losing weight. I don't eat the bread," you know, so that's how you lose weight in Spain. And I remember, you know, since I was very little, I used to have a piece of French bread, which we call it baguette, with olive oil and salt. And that was my breakfast since I can remember. And that was my breakfast, and I needed to have my breakfast every day. So, you know, after having the kids and training a lot, and we used to train lots, I mean, hours and hours and hours, I still had this like tummy here in the middle, like the baby, like the baby weight. And I used to sit with them, and they were like so slim. I mean, Raquel is like so slim, and so she looks gorgeous. And I used to sit with them, and you know, my tummy was always like, you know, here. And I used to like, you know, and I used to say, "Oh, you know, I train so much and I still have my tummy." And we have another friend that trains with us, and they both looked at me and they used to say, "That's the baguette." And I was like, "Oh, how could it be the baguette? You know, I eat so healthily and I exercise a lot. It can't be the baguette." And they kept saying, you know, "This is the baguette, this is the baguette." And they used to laugh about this as well. And I remember one day we did a swim mathlon, and we had to swim 5 kilometers between the three of us, which was fine, actually. We didn't really. And we took lots of pictures that day. And we were all obviously wearing our wetsuits, which are not very flattering, to be honest. And then they sent me all these pictures in WhatsApp, yeah? And I was looking at the pictures, and I saw Raquel, which was like a very slim, athletic woman on her wetsuit, and an immense, obese woman with a massive tummy next to her. And I was thinking, "Oh, this is me." I used to say to them, "Look at me, I look like a whale." And they were like, no, it's just your tummy. Your tummy is a little bit big. And then I realized that actually maybe I should give up the baguette to see if that was and indeed it was. So I did give up the baguette. My tummy disappeared, and I actually realized that I didn't want to give up the baguette because I wanted to eat my baguette every day. So now I am really careful about not eating French bread too many days in a row, just in case the same thing happens. Although now my breakfast looks completely different from before, and it's actually one of the meals that I do, you know, is more varied than anything else. But I still remember that. And then when I did the training in food addiction, I remember Beaton Johnson saying, you know, the bread addicts are the worst, you know, those are the most difficult ones. I keep thinking, "Oh, that's me and my baguette." So yeah, so later on, obviously I put 2 and 2 together, and yeah, that was very helpful. But my friends saw that before me, actually.
Yeah, but the thing is, she gave up the baguette with a fight, because every time we mentioned the baguette, she got really angry. "No, I'm not giving up my bread." no, I'm not having. And she used to say to us, if my kids touch the baguette in the morning and the bread is gone, I get really angry and upset at them. I'll have a go. So I thought this is not normal behavior. I used to get really upset if somebody there to eat her baguette for breakfast. So then is when you start putting the two together. I mean, for me also, I lose complete control around biscuits and Nutella. There's no such thing as one biscuit for me. It's just the whole packet or nothing. And then probably thinking of going down to the shops to buy a second or a third packet. And with the Nutella, I used to joke with my kids because I rarely buy it. But when I did buy it, the kids have to hide it in a cupboard or in a wardrobe or somewhere away from me, because it was that thing touching my mouth, and that's it. I lost the plot, and then about an hour later, thinking, what have I done? Oh my gosh, it's just I could not stop myself, and I ate the whole thing, and I felt sick because obviously it's quite sickening, the Nutella, because it's got a lot of fat and sugar in it. But so when that friend said that, I thought, well, if she's wrong, why am I unable to stop after the first biscuit? Why am I unable to stop after the first spoonful of Nutella? Why is Eva fighting me about the baguette? I'm becoming so possessive with her baguette. So a lot of things have started sort of coming into place and making a lot of sense.
So knowing that you guys have these personal and professional journeys that have come together, you both go do the InFact training, and now you have this business or this practice, Resolve Food Addiction. Can you talk to us about how you work with clients from the Resolve Food Addiction place? Like, what have you found is working best for you guys? What's not working so well?
So Eva and I talk about how we could put into practice what we have learned through the food addiction counseling, because we now believe that there is a lot of need out there to tackle this issue, although we are fully aware that it's not recognized yet as an addiction. But we were quite surprised that a lot of people have been working in this field for many, many years. And what surprised us the most was that it was still quite unknown in the medical profession, and very few people talk about food addiction. So whenever I talk about, we really need to put this offer this service, we decided that we were very constrained in the National Health Service, because our appointment system is only for 10 minutes per patient. So in the morning, we can see 19, 20 patients plus phone calls, plus admin, and the same in the afternoon. So what we learn with InFact is that working with these kind of clients requires a lot of time, support, input. And we weren't able to put it into practice in the National Health Service. So we then decided to go down the private route. And what we offer is a combination of one-to-one consultations. We use food addiction validated questionnaires, the Yale Food Addiction and the ACON. We do an initial assessment, but we also do a medical assessment, because we see a lot of people who have got eating disorders or overeating or binge eating, who also suffer, or they might be at risk of having other medical conditions like type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes or fatty liver and so on. So we do both the food addiction assessment and the medical assessment. And then we decide with the client what is the best support we can put in place, whether it's a one-to-one or group consultations. Obviously, if they need some investigations, we can advise on that, blood test, ultrasound, and we can signpost them to the adequate investigations, and support from other healthcare professionals and other people, because we realize that some of the clients are quite complex. So they do need support from various agencies and support. I think that's what works well, the support and the follow-up. At the beginning, it's quite intense, what we do. And then as the clients feel more confident in the program and they're more established, they see less of us, or they contact me less of us. I think that works very well, because we're not used to work like that in the National Health Service. And it's just quite refreshing and quite good to see what comes out of these consultations. You know, when you give people the time that they deserve, and you give them a listening ear, they just tell you things that they would never tell you in the constraints of a 10-minute consultation. So you think, oh my gosh, all these things I've been missing for many years as a doctor. I'll let Eva tell you what doesn't work so well. Or maybe what works well. Maybe she's got something else to say about that.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, just following from what Raquel was saying, we found that some clients, they just are happy just to do the assessment to start with, and they just want to do the assessment to see what's going on, and it gives them a good understanding of what's been happening. And then they just need some time to think about, well, okay, so now I'm going to go into a program of food addiction, or maybe I'm just going to look into, I don't know, Overeaters Anonymous, but sometimes just giving them that first step, and to tell them that actually it's a biological disease, that it has to do with the reward system, that it's not just that they don't have willpower or that they're lazy, just to tell them that actually this is real, and it is happening, and they cannot do them alone. That I think that's quite helpful for them. I think, as Raquel said, you know, the one-to-one support is working really, really well. I think what's been challenging, not that it's not been working, in fact, it's been working really well, but it's been very challenging to manage groups, and when we try to put clients into groups to do group sessions, which are really helpful for everyone, and you know, the learning in the group session is amazing. We just found that it was really difficult to get all the clients at the same time one day of the week, and obviously you didn't want anyone to miss anything. And obviously if there was a session that was very intense, or there was something that we talk about that we thought, you know, everyone had to know about it, and there was one member missing, you would think that maybe the dynamics of the group changed, because then the next week that person arrives, but he wasn't there the week before. So we found that the groups were very challenging, but it was actually one of the things that worked the best. But it was just very challenging, the practicalities of doing the group every week. Yeah.
So what is something that you guys found when you first started this practice that maybe you believe, like coming out of InFact, and you were like, okay, this is the way that we're going to do it. And now, like working with clients, actually one-on-one, you've learned you needed to be a little bit more flexible with, or something that you've had to kind of adapt to meet client needs in a different way.
So with it, I think is how much the client is prepared to put into the program, because we do tell them that is quite an intensive program, but because we all live very busy lives, sometimes things don't go according to plan or how you want the program to run. And like Eva said, some people, well, they sign up to the assessment, they are happy just to do the questionnaire and then sit back and think what they want to do about what they just found out. So the things that what I've learned is nothing ever goes according to plan, you know. Nothing. And you start with one idea, thinking this is how I'm going to do it, and the more you do it, the more you realize, okay, I need to revisit this, I need to tweak it, I need to change it, because this is not working either for myself or for the client. Also because we offer the service to people outside the UK, and we offer the service both in Spanish and English, because we also, one of the things we realized when we set up Resolve is that there were a lot of resources and a lot of practitioners working in English, but not so many in Spanish. And that's one of the difficulties we have, accessing literature and information in Spanish that we can share with our clients. So when we came out of InFact, we thought, that's it, this is what we are going to do. As Esther said, this is how we are going to do the program. And then we found out that no, it's not working. It couldn't work like that, especially the 12-step program, because we are very keen to introduce people to the 12-step program, do the introduction, and then signpost them to the right support groups to learn more about the 12-step. And one of the things that we have found a little bit tricky is finding the right 12-step programs in the UK and outside the UK, because some clients have had really bad experience with OA, and then we are exploring now Food Addiction Anonymous, and Great Sheet as well, because as from recommendation from Esther. I don't know if Ella wants to say something else as well.
No, just to say that obviously, like being doctors, we had certain guidelines that you just have to stick to. And, someone has hypertension and you just give them, this tablet first. If that doesn't work, you do the next one, you do the next one. But actually the food addiction counseling is obviously completely different. And we came out of IMPACT thinking, we're going to do this and this and this, like Raquel was saying. But then, clients are completely different individuals that come with completely different problems in their backgrounds. And obviously, you just have to be very flexible on how you manage the treatment for each one. Some people like to go cold turkey. Some others want to do the abstinence really slowly. For some people, weighing is a major thing, and for others, they have no problems doing it. So we realized we have to be really flexible. Although the end result needs to be the same, and the aim is to get the client to the same result, but some clients have different pathways, and you just have to adapt and see what they need. Just basically just follow the client's needs.
Yeah, absolutely. We found the same thing. So it's kind of nice to know that it's the same across the ocean as it is here.
And also because a lot of the clients have tried many things before they come to see us. So some of them are quite cynical, or they don't trust the system, or they don't trust what has been done before. So you need to sometimes work initially on building up the trust, and to allow them to open up, because some of them, they have been subjected to really bad criticism, or they've been told terrible things by a lot of other people. So they feel quite embarrassed or misjudged to share. So I think sometimes you should not so obsess so much about how you run the program, but concentrate more on building trust and making the client create an environment where the client feels confident and happy to share without anyone passing any judgment. I think that for me has been a very good learning lesson that we need to work. I think that's, and once you get there, then you can start moving them along the path of change. But you need to get there first, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, that therapeutic relationship, right? It's all about that trust. Can they show up and tell me, oh, I slipped up and I had a cupcake at my son's birthday party or whatever, right? They need to be able to tell me that, or somebody that, in order to move forward from it. Otherwise it just keeps us stuck in the sickness and in the shame, right? So absolutely, I agree. So what is it that you offer that feels really unique to the clinical work of food addiction?
We discussed that, Eva and I, because we thought, what makes us different, or what do we bring different to the table? I think we don't know, maybe you do, but we haven't come across many doctors who are working in food addiction. We have come across many doctors who work in alcohol addiction field or drugs addiction field. Well, alcohol is a drug, but anyway, alcohol and illicit drugs. Yes, here we go family physicians who specialize in the addiction field, and we do have family physicians who have an interest in eating disorders, but we have not yet come across any doctors here in the UK. And as I said, maybe outside the UK there are, who have an interest or develop an interest in food addiction. So I think we were quite unique in IMPACT as well, because we were the only doctors in I think we were the first doctors to do the training in IMPACT. And I think what happened as well, what we saw when we were working with these clients, is that they do have, most of them or many of them have got ongoing medical conditions that they are somehow linked to their eating problems or the eating habits, or they are at risk of developing them. And I think being doctors give us that unique insight into be able to suspect it or diagnose it as well. As family physicians, we are well versed in working with all sorts of medical problems, and also signposting to many different services and agencies. And I think that makes us quite unique as well, because, for example, if we have someone with obesity and we suspect they go sleep apnea syndrome, which is very common in obesity, we are able to take a history, we are able to make some recommendations and signpost the person to the right service. and so on, pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes if they come with medication, and we have to make changes to their diet. We have a good understanding on how that can impact on the medication that they're taking. And although we don't prescribe and we don't change medication, we can make recommendations to their physicians, and so on. I think Eva, maybe I've left something behind that Eva wants to add.
No, so I think actually, yes, the fact that we are doctors, I think, is quite unique. But also, I'm sure there will be lots of bilingual food addiction counselors. But I think the fact that we come from, or we know about two different cultures, we both lived in Spain for almost the same amount of time this year, actually, for me, that we lived in the UK. So we can actually say both cultures are ours, and we do our consultations bilingually, so we can do them in Spanish and in English. But we also know about the cultural differences and the food in different places. So when we actually do our food plans, we take that into account. So if we have a client from Spain, we obviously know the bread is going to be a problem. But then, we do work with Latin American clients as well. And we know that there, the tortillas and, all those, the corn, maize, all of that is really big in there. So you know that you need to try to do something for them to substitute it. So you need to make some swaps so they know that you're not going to trigger their brains with things, but they actually are going to eat things that they like, because otherwise it's unsustainable. So I think that's quite unique on our practice as well.
Yeah, and we understand how the pressures, the family and the environment pressures for them to eat, because food is very important in Spain. It's just not it's just part of the culture, and so it's the same in Latin America, where you get invited into a gathering and it's disrespectful if you don't eat. If you refuse or the food, you're not seen with very good eyes. And so we understand a lot of those pressures that come from the families and the environment when we are working with Spanish-speaking clients.
Right. And that's so important in that biopsychosocial treatment plan that you create with the individuals you work with. So Molly and I are wondering, in the clients that you see who they do really well, right? Whether it's groups or one-on-one, what would you say that they have in their recovery management plan that makes them successful? Like, do they have kind of a secret to success?
I think I'll let that Eva answer that question.
Yeah, I think it would be great if they tell us why some people do much better than others. But from experience, what we found is that the clients that have a good rapport and a good relationship with us, and they have a trusting relationship with us, and they feel that they could be as honest as possible, those are the ones that do much better than others. Also, at the end of the program, those that actually find the right support, those that find a group that they like and a sponsor that they like, and that they feel confident and comfortable in that group, are the ones that they end up doing really well. I mean, obviously, we haven't been doing this for 20 years, so we don't know if in 20 years' time our clients are still going to be in recovery. But those that are in recovery at the moment after being with us are the ones that have actually found support apart from us afterwards. And I think that is probably their secret, I would say. I don't know if Raquel thinks there's anything else different.
Yeah, I think some people do surprise you, because you think at the beginning they bring so much resistance and reluctancy, and then they do very well, and then you think, wow, how did that happen? And I will always love to know what clicks in people's brain to make them change, to decide, that's it, I just want to take a U-turn in my life. I've always been fascinated by that subject. When people change and they make massive changes in their life, I always ask them, what was it for you? For Eva, for example, was the wetsuit picture.
Definitely. And I still haven't forgiven you for not telling me that I look like that.
For a client of mine, he was dancing away on a video with a friend without any top, and then he saw himself after he lost 15 kilos again dancing on a video, and he saw the difference, and he thought, oh my gosh, that is when it suddenly hit me, the weight issue problem I had. No, until then, he already has lost 10 kilos, but it's only when he saw the 2 videos of him dancing is when he decided, oh my gosh, I never realized, it never hit me that I was carrying so much weight with me, and I was having all these issues with my food and so on. So I think it's different for everyone. Some people don't have any support systems outside their normal life, but somehow they manage to get some support system, because one of the things I find with this illness is they feel extremely isolated and very lonely, and asking for help is a big issue for many of them, and understanding that the help is available, and that they feel so judged and so unable to talk about the inferno that they're going through, because it's really tough. It really is tough, I think, for what I hear from clients.
Yeah, I think we find the same thing. Those clients who have the support, who don't isolate and just keep talking about it, even if there are slips and trips along the way, they are the ones who seem to get this momentum, and they start to trust themselves and trust others, and it becomes less about the food, and they can address the other things. And then pretty soon their trajectory toward, long-term sobriety, long-term recovery is just so much more likely, it seems like, than the folks who want to, who are more comfortable staying with the secrets and the darkness, so to speak. So yeah, I agree with I think I see the same things in many of my clients as well. So we have a signature question that we like to ask all of our guests, and it is, if you could tell a younger version of yourself something about food addiction or food addiction recovery, what would it be?
I think for me now, after practicing medicine for more than 20 years, I would say to a younger version of me, food addiction is real, very real, exists. Have no doubts about it. And when things don't look right, which they haven't done for me in my clinical practice, when dealing with a lot of people with weight issues, and there are many of them, you need to look beyond the mainstream answers. You have to question where are we going wrong, what we're doing wrong here, because we just accept the status quo. A lot of things that we've been told as doctors, you just have to say to people, eat less, move more, a calorie is a calorie, these kind of things. And for many years we didn't even question it. We thought, yeah, this is right. But then we saw the evidence was telling us that none of those advice were working. So you have to question it. I keep on saying to my kids, run away from the sheep mentality. But I had that mentality too. It's kind of like we all saying the same thing to patients, although we know it hits us eventually that it wasn't working. So that is what I would say to a younger version of me. Even if the experts are saying this is what you should do, you sometimes have to question the expert, or many times have to question the experts, especially if the evidence is showing you something different.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Raquel says. And I think I would say to myself, do not eat the baguette. And
Again.
Again. Yeah.
Oh, this has been so wonderful. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. And we are really excited to introduce you both to the whole food addiction community, because, you guys have been kind of quiet. We don't hear enough about you. And so I think this was an amazing introduction.
Thank you. Thank you so much both for having us.
We got great admiration for all of you. And when we learn about the amount of people that they've been doing this work behind the scenes for years, we felt like, because we thought, well, this is not recognized as such. And yet a lot of people are still working in this field in spite of the general belief that this doesn't exist. And then you are seeing a lot of people who are recovering and they're doing very well. you know, and going against the status quo is not easy, but I take my hat off.
Thank you so much.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much. We're very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on the Food Junkies Food Addiction Summit.
If you would like to hear more, tune in every Friday to the Food Junkies podcast, available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Audible, and anywhere else you listen to your favorite podcast. Subscribe so you'll never miss a show.
Don't forget to pick up a copy of Dr. Tarman's book, Food Junkies, which is available on Amazon.
If you have any additional questions, both Molly and Clarissa are food addiction professionals and work one-on-one with clients. Their websites and email addresses are available at foodjunkiespodcast.com.
As Vera always says, the power is ours.